camera a little bit closer. There's more space. Let's do that I like. Now you're recording again. I should actually put the fucking microphone so it's facing you. I don't know.
No, that's all right.
Call it crazy. All right, that's fine. That's recording. That's recording. That's recording. When you get a chance, just clap that. We'll ask that question. We'll ask that question one more time just for safety, but I'm sure it's fine. And that's elaborate on the first world switch from base raw material economy to refined digital products using individuals as the raw material.
One of the original things with an analog economy, the economy that existed truly up to about 1990, 95, 2000, was the fact it was an analog commodity physical resource economy. You had strip mines, you had lumber, you had all coal, you had all of these different forms of physical elements that were ingested into the economy, made. You had cars, steel, things of this nature. People physically labored. And that was truly part of the analog economy. Today, with a digital economy, those same resources aren't needed. They are more so needed from a third world environment, not necessarily from what we consider foolishly to be the first world economy. And today, the knowledge-based structure relies heavily upon a digital economy. And this is where the purchasing is going on. Obviously, these younger generation than the 60-year-olds my age, these 20 and 30 and even 14 and 15 and 10-year-olds are really fueling that economy, and they are living this space. You will not see them without their phone. You will not see them without being connected to the internet. You will not, they'll freak out if their phone goes down, if the Wi-Fi goes down. And they use this term FOMO, fear of missing out. This is something they created and something they truly believe in. That if they're not connected to whether it's purchasing through Amazon or whomever, Walmart is now starting into really foregoing the concept of the store. Nordstrom has done the same thing. This concept of packages showing up on your porch, going to Walmart now and having a personal shopper meet you in the parking lot after you've placed your order. They deliver it into your minivan or your car to bring it home. This is truly the major steps from an analog world where shoppers don't even want to spend the time walking around the store anymore. That changes marketing, that changes economy, that changes warehouse, that changes store structure, that changes so many things, that there is now truly a digital consumer making the changes and driving this economic bus.
Right on.
Not a bad second answer.
Yeah, that's always good to take a second crack at it.
Yeah, when you don't. I got to tell you, this is the most relaxed and energetic I've felt on a project like this in a long time.
Well, it's definitely
That's
better.
why I'm kind of saying to you, I feel bad that I can't at least, pay for your gas, buy you dinner, do something.
Yeah, sure.
I should do that for you guys. Well, you're with the other family, whatever.
Okay. Yeah, Pat, you can do whatever you want.
I know. I like to just. Next question: how do you build a user?
How do you build the user?
Some of the basic premise of this book is that the user and this doc. Let's start that again. 1, 2, 3. Some of the basic premise behind the theory of Veal and breeding a consumer class has been that the user, the person who purchases or drives this economy or consumes this digital product, had to be built. And the reason I say that is typically as economies evolve, we talk about Schumpeter, but as they move from sitting around a fire to sitting around a radio to sitting around a television, now to no one being in front of the television, as my son says, we go off to our neutral corners. That user prior had time to evolve from town square, fireplace, radio, television. They had 50, 60 years for the marketers and the marketplace and the the consumers to all kind of evolve into the same space. This did not have that amount of time. The internet's been around since 57 at earliest, latest actually, date. So that's 60 years, okay. However, it wasn't used in a commercial fashion. Television, radio, these things were instantly sponsored. You know it from the days of the old gold cigarettes or the Kraft Hour or whatever it was. The internet, the web space really started around 93. There were only 3,000 websites up in 1993 and the launch from Tim Berners-Lee. Today there are close to 3.5 billion sites up and running. And that's a short window of 20 years, 24 years. So the sites got there, everything got there within half the time that we're thinking about in the sense of television and radio. So the consumer had to be built. And as we walked into this new digital age, we knew that we did not have the right person in charge of purchasing. So these consumers had to be formed much quicker. I think in my mind about Lucy and the Chocolates. They thought they had it, her and Viv, until the woman said, speed it up. And that's exactly what's happened with the web. They've sped it up. They've started to move this conveyor belt of the chocolates faster and faster and faster. And now, and that's a great visual, is seeing Lucy trying to keep up with consuming and eating the chocolates. And she obviously failed, and that's my question. Are we going to fail and fail in a bigger way? So the consumer had to be built, and they were built in three main ways, which I've been discussing. A sense of marketplace manipulation, a sense of abusive use of technology, and the lack of governance to cover this space. Now with the turnover of net neutrality, the DMCA isn't even spoken about anymore. Copyright issues are all over the place. It's Lucy and the Chocolates right now, and that conveyor belt is going faster than ever. My belief is the wrong people are controlling the switch.
Nice. All right.
Home prices, baby. I'm going to combine 32, 33, 32, 33, and then we'll do 34 separately.
Okay. All right. So.
Because 32 and 33 really go together.
All right. Why was there a spike in home prices in 1974, and where the 1980s and the 2003 housing market's done purposely and not just free market fluctuation?
One of the biggest criticisms of this premise is, well, houses were always expensive. And one of my biggest beliefs is that's where the marketplace manipulation truly took hold. And again, if you understand the work in books and movies like The Big Short, you're going to see that they really say the last area, the last vestige, I think is the word, of the pocketbook of the American public is that home. All of us want to grow up with the American dream, buy a home, raise a family. It's a wonderful thing. But the price back when my father, who actually built his house, and he actually built both his houses. He built our home on Long Island, and then of course built his house upstate. He built it himself with just raw materials. No, very few people can do that. The concept of buying a house in the 1950s and 60s and up to the 70s was this a year salary, purchase of a house. A year salary equals the purchase price of a house. Now, if you take a look at this, you're going to see that even with combined incomes, it's not 1 year, it's 4 years. Combined incomes of a young couple maybe are $125,000 starting out. You times that by 4 and you're at $500,000, kind of the price of the home that they want. So this 1-to-1 ratio became 4-to-1. Why'd you do it? Well, who are you paying the money to? You're paying the mortgage to the bank. You're not necessarily really paying it to the homeowner that you bought from, if it's not a brand new house. But if you're buying a house from a family and you have a mortgage with a bank, that family only receives the $500,000 after everything's taken out too. But you're paying for 30 years probably close to $1.5 million for that $500,000 house. So that $1 million is going to the bank. So why do I think something happened here? You know, well, as they say, a million here, a million there, pretty soon that adds up to real money. Now you're hooked into that for 30 years. You have to pay that. You have to move. You have to live. So the question is, where does the money go? The money goes to the banks. It goes to the mortgage companies, the banks. You can put any name you want on it. And that bank then gets to take that money, obviously do what they did in '08 and '09 and almost collapse the global economy, and then get all the money back and then not really lend it out. But yes, it seems like it's a little bit of a rigged game. Now the question is, why did the pricing change? The price changed because they realized this is where the money was. That's that great Willie Sutton joke. Why did, not joke, he was a bank robber in the 30s. When they finally captured him, they said to him, Willie, why did you rob the banks? And he looked at the reporter and said, because that's where they keep the money. And the same thing is true about this. Why did you rob the American public? Because that's where they keep the money.
All right.
Jesus, if I had more coffee, I'm pretty sharp in the morning.
We should have done this all in the morning. Now we know.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, you know what the part here too is, sir?
What?
I had sleep. The weather's beautiful. I'm awake when I go outside. You know, like the difference between yesterday and today is insane, right?
Yeah. And you're not collapsed on the floor. That helps.
What's that?
You're not collapsed lying on the floor. That helps too.
Exactly.
All right. You say, how do you create a need for extra revenue? You increase the cost of basic necessities to live, but one income will not cover the monthly costs.
Right.
Elaborate on this Veal model and how it manipulates the housing market and plays into this.
Actually, I'm going to go the other way to the end. I'll show you what I mean. One of the key factors in this is the need for a second revenue in the home. How is that need created? As we were just discussing, the need was created by a mortgage that was 4 times larger than it had previously been. So there was a need for a second salary coming into that house. When I was newly married 30-something years ago, I literally worked 80 hours a week because my wife was home in the early days with my son and my daughter, and I had to make a second salary. Not a part-time job, not a little overtime, not a weekend job. I literally had to work to make an additional full salary. Okay, so the question is, why does that need to happen? 50s, 60s, 70s, 30s, even during the worst of times, one salary kept a family going. And these families were of 6, 7, 8, 9 people at times. My mother's family had 9 children, just her mother working. 9 children during the Great Depression, just the mother working in a home business. It was a butcher, grocery store. How did they make it? How did they have a roof? Today, with 2 salaries, we're hearing about foreclosures, over foreclosures, going underwater with the house. So the question is, why has this become so necessary? Obviously, pricing of homes, but my belief is this was made necessary and used to extract that second guardian, parent, adult out of the house. Once you've done that, and you've done it with a primary or secondary benefit, the money, now you've removed that parent. Now they're nothing but prey, these children. Now they're going to daycare, and they try as hard as they can, these daycare workers. I'm not knocking working mothers, parents, or daycare workers. I'm just saying, in this situation that's been brought up for no reason whatsoever, these children are now in environments where they can't have the true one-to-one nurturing that their parent, their guardian, would give them. So you have this market manipulation. Now you've placed these young children into a situation where it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. Now it's a 1-to-10 or 12 or 14 or 15 ratio. What's going to happen to these kids? In the early days of the mid-'80s, when it really hit, and if you look at the statistics and the charts that we'll show you later, you're going to see that these areas of market manipulation and housing prices coincide with the release of personal computers, video games, tablets, and coincide with a form of disability, a form of problem for these younger kids. And it just seems it doesn't make sense that you would say these three things don't go together. You know, Occam's razor is if the least amount of probability is probably the correct answer. If you're looking at something and housing prices are going up, personal computers are filling the same arc, and this injury, this form of disease they call whatever it is hitting these children at the same time, you have to conclude that the three things are working together. And I don't believe anything happens by accident. I'm very big on that with Freud. There are no such things as accidents. So these three things working together started with the housing price issue, extracting the parent from the house, introducing the new young person into daycare, and introducing devices that take up their time, whether it's television, computers, video games, handhelds, Nintendos, whatever they are. All of this came together too much at one time, just for it to be chance.
All right, moving on.
Yeah, okay, there we are with separating the herd, right?
Yeah.
And we're starting to talk about child care centers. Okay. Wow. I forgot this next question. It was kind of, it's not enough. You know what I'm going to do, David? I'm not going to go as heavy as I just did. I'm going to pull back and just kind of go statistically for this question 38. You know what I mean?
Okay, I feel like you went heavy enough last time.
I can go all day long. That's why I wrote. But, you know, I think I don't want to become, you know, like, you know.
I would go heavy and we'll cut
And
you
let
back.
it cut. Okay.
Yeah. And don't say that we'll show you later, because most likely we're going to be showing you as you're saying it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, that's good.
and it's just fourth dimension.
So, right, time issue. Okay.
All right. So
I'm going to pick up with 38. Is that okay?
you want to skip the breaking and separating the herd, rising?
No. You know what? You're right. Let's do 37.
All right. So break down separating the herd and the rising need for a surrogate parent. Did the housing priceless mortgage cause the children to be separated by the herd?
All right. My belief is with this need for a second salary just to pay the mortgage, this separated the calf from the herd. The mother, the father, and then the calves. And this pulling away of the parents from watching over and taking care of these young children kind of made them into calves, and those calves were able to stray. And you only have, you know, one cowpoke watching over these 15 calves. Someone's going to run off into the bushes. Someone's going to take off. Someone's not going to be doing what they're supposed to be doing. And at that point in time is kind of when they do become prey. So you have this hierarchy of the herd. Then you have the mother and father, right? Cows or bull, whatever. And now you have the calf. And this is kind of the structure that I'm alluding to. And that calf, if not watched carefully, or if intended for it not to be watched carefully, will purposely be made into a form of veal. They're separated, they're stimulated the way that the end product needs them to be stimulated, like veal. They're fed a certain diet, they're massaged mentally a certain way, and this diet does affect them mentally as well. We're talking about a lot of sugar being introduced in the late 80s and 90s. This cereal change, and they could, anytime someone says no high fructose in this, that makes me think of the Shakespearean line, "Methinks he protests too much." Anybody keeps telling you, no, this is good, this is fine, this stuff, either they've gone too far and now they're losing the kind of reaction they want, so now they pull back, or they know parents are not going to buy that product because they're afraid, so now they put this label on it that says no high fructose corn syrup, and the reality is it's probably the same exact thing as it always has been. So are they now being preyed upon? Yes. Have they been separated from the herd? Yes. Are they positioned in a small space being stimulated? Well, of course they're being stimulated because they need to have something to do during those 8, 9, and 10 hours that they're not with their parents. And you have one daycare worker trying to work with 15 kids. They need to have, I guess, individual activities that keep them, or group. But this television, tablet, a computer, video games, a headset listening to music, whatever it is this perfect stimulation to later make them into the perfect digital consumer. Starting them at a young age, feeding them the right amount of ingredients, stimulating them this way. At the end product, it seems like we have a perfect digital consumer.
You're right.
Well, there you go.
Child care centers has grown.
I think I did 38 there too. How do you feel?
How much I'm trying to.
Hmm.
Let's just read it. I think.
I'm going to do a little bit more on 38.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick it up from how has the child care industry responded in growth? And the effect, this is where we may cut in a psychologist if we have one, right? A child psychologist to talk about the effects.
Yeah. We'll get one.
Yeah, I will one way or another.
Yeah.
And then it's quality time. We
Do you know the statistics at the top of your head?
for child care industry,
Yeah.
it's been over